Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. Today we're cutting through the marketing BS with someone who actually knows how to drive pipeline and not just talk about it. Meet Nishat Jones, Fractional CMO, founder of Stratiate. Actually, I should have checked with you. Is that the correct pronunciation?
All right.
Great. And the no fluff operator behind multiple marketing transformations across packaging, tech, and service industries. Nishat isn't about vanity metrics or fluff. She's about results. We're talking demand gen systems that cut customer acquisition costs in half, brand messaging that closes PE deals, and lessons she learned the hard way, like blowing budget on automation before nailing messaging. That's something that we're familiar with. In this episode, we get into why strategy has become a marketing cop-out, why most brands produce content to excess and underperform on conversions, and how to build pipeline-first marketing engines without getting lost in shiny tech. If you want straight talk, smart insights, and a few laughs about what actually works in modern marketing, this is the episode you've been waiting for. Welcome, Nishat.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you reaching out to me and to be on your podcast.
Absolutely. Well, it's always nice to talk to somebody that has some real strategy chops and some experience with high-level marketing. Now, you've led some serious turnarounds. Now, what's the first thing you look at when you start work with a new client from your position as fractional CMO or marketing advisor?
The very first thing is your overall strategy and goals for your organization. So then I can ensure that the marketing goals align with those, because all too often you find that marketing is working in a silo, they're churning, they're just doing their brand, their messaging, and there's a complete disconnect from the rest of the organization, sometimes much less from the executive goals.
So, I think that's helpful. And I saw, as I was reading through your content, I like the term you used that a lot of CMOs hide behind strategy. So what do you mean by that?
So they say they're being strategic, but there's a lot of vanity metrics, there's a lot of decks, there's a lot of playbooks. And playbooks are only as good as the paper they're printed on, right? Until you can execute on them. So while I believe AI and automation aren't like these silver bullets and these, that they are part of the ammunition for us, but you really have to know the fundamentals. Who are your ICPs? Have you built out your buyer personas? Do you know what your potential customer, your prospects, what are their challenges? What are their pain points? So building out the very basic frameworks, I find that a lot of organizations don't even have those. So to then start working on messaging and content creation, there's a complete mess.
Okay. So, I think a lot of marketers, they default to maybe spending their way out of problems or pipeline shortages in terms of just running more ads. So what do you think is a more sustainable approach than that?
I really think you have to break down and do some segmentation. Look at where you are getting your leads from today. Paid ads is an area of opportunity for sure, but it's also one of the largest areas of spend. So you really have to be careful that if you are doing any sort of paid ads, you're looking at the conversions, the cost per conversion, you know what it is for your industry, and you see where you sit in there. I prefer to be able to look at where our leads come from that are closing, that are converting, utilizing a CRM and making sure that everything is in there. That should be a natural alignment where marketing and sales work hand in hand. If you've got a CRM, at least a basic format, you can see what is the buyer's journey, where are some of the areas we're getting stuck, but more importantly, where are we closing those deals and those opportunities? And then backtracking from there to look at the lead source was a website or wherever the lead source came from. We can double down in those areas and assure ourselves that that will drive more quality leads. It's not about quantity. It's always about quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess my experience, just to back that up, is typically when you raise spend, as a solution, your cost per acquisition goes up. And so it actually reduces your effectiveness in that sense. Now, so let's talk about like in some real experiences you've had. What are some of the more successful campaigns or marketing strategies you've implemented that really helped impact a business?
One of the earlier ones when I became head of marketing or CMO, if you want to call it that, when I worked in corporate America was to implement a CRM system where we created an alignment between sales and marketing. I was actually the first marketing resource they had had, and they were a multi-$100 million organization. So it was fantastic to be able to come in and kind of lay out that baseline and work through sales. We built that bridge between sales and marketing, outlined the brand, but we're able to look at, okay, so what's working, what's not working, and then immediately start generating 20% revenue attribution directly tied to marketing efforts. So it was fantastic to be able to see those results early on just by having that alignment and also having the visibility into all the data on where the clients were actually coming from.
Interesting. Well, so conversely, are there situations you've come into where they were using marketing strategies or tactics that were completely ineffective? Anything memorable that stuck out on that term?
You know, I've been in multiple organizations where I like to call it the old school marketing, where we literally throw a net and we see what we catch. There's no strategy, there's no insight or thought about it, but it was just like, let's try this, let's try that, and see what we catch. And so I found that, over the years, you've heard a lot about account based marketing, account based experience. So being more targeted, being more judicious about who you're going to go after has worked much better. So I've had my fair share of coming into organizations that just don't have a strategy and they just try and hope. And hope is not a strategy for sure.
It's not a strategy. That's well said. Um, well, let's talk a little bit about content. Where do you see organizations really thriving in terms of the balance of volume versus quality or volume versus authenticity? Where should an organization really try to target their efforts?
So content is key. I mean, without content, I don't think marketing would exist, honestly. So I am a huge proponent for content. That being said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Repurposing content is probably the best thing that a lot of marketers don't do, unfortunately. One thing I should probably mention that may or may not come up in this conversation is AI. So, can AI generate my content? Absolutely, it can. Do you think it's going to work very well? Absolutely not. So, the utilization of AI is great for a lot of research and for a lot of baseline, but you've got to have that human touch. You have to personalize that content. I mean, when you look at websites today, the ones that are working the best and drawing leads are the ones that have actually adapted their content to be more picked up by these LLMs, the large language models, the AI tools. So when you're creating content, make sure it's in the frame of reference that you and I would use to generate those prompts or questions that we are for AI. But make sure that your content is very human appealing and it's not, we have high quality, we deliver on time, all those catchphrases that a lot of organizations use. Differentiate yourself from there and make sure that your content really resonates. Address the challenges and the pain points that your prospects are having, and that will be a sure win for you.
So would you say that most businesses are able to do the majority of their content in-house, or is that, um, or do you think that that is something that maybe should be contracted out? I don't know if you have a broad opinion on that, but
I see a huge mix. I'm hearing a lot about content writers being laid off just because of AI, because a lot of executives feel like AI can do it for you. And back to my original point, yeah, it can, but it's not going to be very good. I find that the organizations that are successful at least have the majority of their content being done in-house, because you're working with operations, you're working with sales, so you understand what's happening and you can really tailor your content better. Some of it can be done through contract basis, but I would recommend that 70% of your content be done in-house.
Okay. Now, I've also seen that you aren't anti-automation by any means, and one of the key channels that a marketing group can do is nurture either dormant former leads or leads that didn't close right away. What would you say is, considering the conditions of today, what does an effective lead nurture system look like in the present?
So today it's, there's a lot of workflows, there's a lot of automation for sure, and there's nothing wrong with those. Just don't overwhelm your audience. Don't email them every day. Especially in B2B,
Right.
not effective, right? B2C, it's a different game. But making sure that that content is very tailored to your audience. So create lists, segment them out. If you're focused on 6 different industries, that content should be around each of their industries, not generic content. So, as much as you can customize, the better you will do. Um, that's just because it's much more appealing to that audience. One other point I wanted to make, Reed, that you had mentioned earlier was about, lost leads or opportunities. Um, that's a huge miss that I find a lot of organizations don't focus on. It's that
Mm.
close lost and it's, oh, we lost it. So I actually, in every CRM system that I implement, I'm actually a HubSpot partner. I've worked in HubSpot for about 12 years, implemented it at 8 different organizations. So it is my CRM of choice, and but I've worked in many other platforms. I always like to run close lost campaigns. So I will always have a close lost reason. So when sales is closing it out, was it price? Was it timing? Was it contract? What is the reason? And then to go back and re-nurture those when you have that product available, or when your lead times are better, or your pricing changes, because those are huge opportunities. You already engaged with them. You already know what their story was. So, it's costs 5 times as much to generate a new lead than it does to retain one. So just imagine if you've already been through that process once with a closed lost, that's actually low hanging fruit in my opinion for companies. I always recommend go through a closed lost activation program.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've seen some success with that as well, and often it's just minimal effort. It's like sometimes it's even just a single additional touch point where they're like, "Oh, I just didn't get around to it," or that I had a bad day and I was totally distracted, and so yeah, I think that's for a lot of businesses, keeping good records around those is really impactful. Now, segmentation obviously is very important. And um, do you have a rule of thumb where there are either too many personas or ICPs that a business could go after? Are there never too many, or I don't know? How do you offer guidance on that?
I'd like to say there's never too many, but when you go through your segmentation, that really should determine. So when you're looking at it by product or by business unit or whatever it may be, normally I find that you don't have more than 3 to 5, but there are organizations where they'll have a dozen. So it really, once you've looked at your data, let your data lead those decisions, and then you've gone through your segmentation exercise, it really will dictate how many you should have.
Okay, but maybe not thousands.
Definitely not. Let's not get too granular.
Yeah, because there's always somebody that's going to try to push that, just because they can. But
Right.
um, so, you're deep into the CRM space. You're HubSpot expert. Now, when you're building a funnel, so the concept of the funnel sometimes is new to some businesses. What are the critical factors that should be a part of a sales or a marketing funnel?
So you've got to map out the buyer's journey. What is the process that the buyer goes through? And what are our targets and our stage gates? And make sure that both of those are aligned. I mean, that's key. If you can't do that, then you're going to have a complete mess. And then once you've laid that out, make sure you're monitoring each of those, because utilizing content to drive the next stage, the next process is another key there. So, if they're stuck at the stage where you have done a proposal or you've had the discussions about pricing, perfect time to send a case study to show them that we've done this. This is proven this works. So there are times where you can actually use content to help them feel more comfortable about the decision that they're about to make, because they're switching vendors. They're making a huge change in their organization at times. Sometimes you're not the first, you may be a replacement. So they need some assurance. I'm a huge proponent for case studies, but mapping out your content with your buyer's journey across your pipeline and your stages is very critical.
Okay, and I like this theme of really understanding the client. I think you have some real consistency in this messaging. I have worked with many businesses that they like doing what they're doing, or they like certain aspects of their business and maybe don't care enough about what their customers like, or don't really understand why certain customers hire them. And so that can't be overemphasized. So now I want to talk about the alignment between marketing and sales. Now, a CRM is a great platform for that, but where are the key points where marketing and sales really need to be sharing information or collaborating on key steps?
That's a great question. I think they should really have shared goals. So, what are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that we need to achieve? It's not you and I, it's never that conversation. It should always be we. So, first, line those out and look at, where are we generating leads from? What are our sources? What's realistic? Is it really realistic that if you're generating 200 MQLs, marketing qualified leads today, that you expect within 3 months for marketing to be able to quadruple that, or make it 1,000? That's an unrealistic expectation. It'd be the same to do that to sales, to say that this many convert. This is so. Make sure you're aligned on your goals and that you set those metrics to begin with. Have three, no more than five. Like, we're not looking to get crazy here. So first of all, get those lined out, and then ensure that that communication is consistently happening. So everybody's using the CRM. Everyone has visibility. There's transparency, so you can see what's working, what's not working. There are times where marketing will try new things. We may try, some different types of events. We may try a different type of ad. So things are ebb and flow, and just have that flexibility where there's the visibility for everyone to be able to give input on it, and then to continue reiterating the process as needed.
So, if somebody is listening, just as a general statement, they feel like their marketing is stuck, they're trying really hard, but they're not getting results. Is there like a single shift or a single area of their marketing that you'd emphasize that they should start on to start making a difference?
I would definitely ask them to look at what they're doing. I mean, literally at the granular level, what isn't working? When you say it's not working, you would have to break down what that means. Is it that you're not generating the qualified leads you need? Is it not the right type of leads? Are you not in the right place? Do you have data? Because that data is really going to help you. So if you're not gathering that data, that's a huge miss. So it might be just, let's look at your pipeline. Let's look at your website statistics. Start with the very basic. And then can we implement something cost effective potentially if you're not looking at your data and looking at your conversions? Because where your leads come from today that have closed, and those are customers, that's really what you should be doubling down on.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. Now, if somebody would be interested in working with you, hiring you, or just consulting with you, where are the best places to find you?
Probably one of two places. You can go on LinkedIn. There's only one Nishat Jones on there. If you
Oh,
type my name in, you should see me pop up. And then also my website, it's strate8.com. So STRATE, the number 8.com. And you can connect with me directly there. So would love to work with you, or even just have a conversation and talk to you about what you're doing. Love to offer you just a complimentary session to talk about maybe some of the challenges you're having, and see if we can dive a little deeper on that.
that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I would recommend reaching out to Nishat if you have any needs around getting your marketing act together or defining sales and marketing processes. I think Nishat has a wealth of expertise that you could really benefit from. So thank you.
Thank you.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.